Man, I'm excited about this message. I'm excited to preach today, and I want to start off just by telling you it's going to be in Genesis chapter 43. And if you're reading through Genesis, it's going to feel a lot like Genesis chapter 42, because one of the things as you read through, especially the Old Testament, but you'll notice that you start to hit some of the same stories. We saw Abraham go to Egypt and pretend he didn't have a wife and all this. He did it twice, and then his son did it, and it was the same story. And that's kind of the way this works. And there's a learning mechanism here we call spaced repetition that we have talked about before, but the idea that you keep going back and forth, you keep kind of going over these things over and over again. And why I mention that is because there are some of you that are new to the faith. Maybe you're not even a Christian yet. Maybe you've just started walking. Maybe you're just checking out church. There's all different ones. And if you're new, you have this kind of mindset that everybody else here knows all these stories. I don't know the stories, but everyone else here knows all the stories because this is your kind of first pass through these things. And I just want to encourage you. I kind of think about it as if we're going to Disneyland. We're on a journey together, and some of us, if you were driving to Disneyland, some of us might be going into California, some of us might be further along the road, and some of you might just be starting, to decide, hey, should I go to Disneyland? Should I go there? And I just want to give you some comfort. If you're new and you don't know all these names, you can't remember who's Jacob, who's Israel, who are all these people. Today, that's fine. Just listen to the message, and this is your first pass. Give yourself permission. I don't have to know the details, and this is a foundation. But if maybe you're heading into Orange County, maybe you've been walking with the Lord a while. This is the 50th time you've heard this story. I also want to caution you. I don't want you to just assume I've heard this, I'll tune out, because the truth is this message has kind of impacted me way more than I thought it was, and it's kind of a routine message, and I just this week found myself worshiping and just praising God for it. And so it could be that even though you've been doing church for a while, you've heard this story 100 times, that this might be the day that God really gets a hold of you as well. And so I want to just plant that expectation for us. And I just want to remind us, we ain't in Disneyland yet. None of us, okay? In fact, that's our next t-shirt in our shop is you ain't in Disneyland yet. Listen, we're all on this journey, okay? We're all on this journey. And I just want to point out also, if you've been doing this, you might be in Orange County, you might be in Las Vegas or whatever, and you get sidetracked in Las Vegas, and you need somebody who's just now starting out to come behind you and to say, you know what, we're going to Disneyland, we're not supposed to stop here, you need to keep going. I'm making this up as I go, if you can't tell, so I hope that makes sense to you, but I just want to encourage us today as we, y'all are like, that was so profound. As we go through this message, I really want you to expect God to show up. And if this is your first time through it, maybe today God is going to do something you never thought. Maybe you're going to hear the gospel in a new way. And maybe if you've been in church a while, maybe you realize, man, I picked up some things. I'm carrying some things. And this isn't the way that I know it's supposed to be. I haven't even really taken the time to notice where I'm at. All right, I'm going to experiment something, and I made a mistake. I did not clear this with Brittany. So, Brittany, we're going to try to put this on the screen, and we're just going to see if it works. And it may work. What I want you to do is I want you to open your phone, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. But I want you to open your phone anyway because I have notes. It's called sermon notes in there, okay? And if you'll go to the sermon notes, yes, it is on there. Sweet. We're going to see if this works. You can either take a picture and you can take this poll, but I've got a poll. If you go to the sermon notes, you can also click the link. But I want to start off, and I just put some things up here that I want to figure out where we brought into. What have we brought in? I don't even know if you're far enough. Somebody tell me, did it work? All right. So take this poll, and I want to see, I don't even know if it'll live update, but I want to just see if you are in a position where you'd say, you know what, really what I hope for today, really what I would like to see God do is I long for God to remove a constant struggle with sin and addiction that I have been dealing with. Maybe that's what you brought in here, and you haven't really even thought, look at this. We're starting to, and this is totally anonymous, won't know. Maybe you say, you know what? I would love for God to give me rest. I would love for God to just know that I've done enough. Maybe you've got anxiety, and you say, I just wish God would give me anxiety. By the way, this is a small Jesus miracle that we've got technology working, and I didn't even check it. Maybe you say, I just wish I had joy and peace. Maybe you're checking all of these. But here's what I want you to see. Is as I start this message, every single one of us in here, everyone in here isn't perfect. Every single one of us has come in here saying, you know what, I just wish I had some peace. I just wish I had some freedom from anxiety. I wish I had rest. I have a sin struggle, and I wish I had victory. I wish I had a clear purpose or meaning. All of us in here are struggling with something, are wrestling with something, and we think we're the only ones. And so if you're here today, no matter where you are in your journey, I want to start off with this, and I want us to lay out what it looks like to have victory. What if God were to fix this today? Because here's what I know. For a lot of us, we have this idea of victory that is not what victory looks like in Christ. And so I made up a new stat. It's called total redeemed victory, okay? It's kind of like your batting average, okay? Actually, it's nothing like your batting average, okay? TRV, your total redeemed victory. What would it look like if whatever you brought in here today, the anxiety that you feel every day, the fear of failure, the disappointment and defeat of struggling with an addiction or a sin, what would it look like if you had victory over it? Because here's what some of us give up on church, or we leave the gospel, or we don't really hang on to it every single day, because we think that victory really looks like my problems going away. We think it's new circumstances. And I just want to challenge you, what if instead of just your anxiety going away because every problem you had, God just melted that away? That's how some of us think someday we're going to overcome anxiety because God's going to fix it. He's going to fix that stuff. But it could be that in the gospel we begin to say, you know what? I'm going to truly, for the first time, all these things I'm worried about, I'm going to trust what Jesus says. None of us can add a day. I'm just going to lay it down. And I'm still going to go through these struggles. I'm still going to be tempted to worry. But when I do, I'm going to run to Jesus. I'm going to go and say, Jesus, I can't handle this today. I lay it down. And every single day you have to lay down this burden. Every single time you have to. But instead of running away from God, you run to God. What if that's what your TRV is? What if your victory today is you don't feel like you're a good enough mom, you don't feel like you're a good enough dad, and instead of your kids never talking back to you again, instead of them eating all their Brussels sprouts or whatever it is that you think, man, if God would just fix this, what if instead every time you end the day and think, I didn't do enough, I wasn't good enough, I yelled, I wish this would just go away, and instead you were able to just say, Jesus, I give this to you. I give that my failure, I give my defeat, and I worship you because you are giving me a new morning. You're going to use your grace even in the midst of this. What if your sin struggle, your addiction that you think no one knows about, but yet we all have these sin struggles, everyone in here. And some of us think, oh, someday I'm going to get done with my addiction, it'll be gone, I won't be tempted anymore. Last week we had Courtney Collins. She had this victory. And you may have said this to her, but I hope you didn't say, hey, it's so great, Courtney, that's up in your past that you don't have to deal with that anymore. That's not how a struggle with sin works. That's not how addiction, we lay it to Jesus, but what we've got to say is, what if your victory is not carrying the burdens, not carrying the pain, the anxiety, the sins, all the things that are weighing you down, and that you have found out and figured out how to get through life and deal with them? What if the gospel is simply laying down your burdens to Jesus, who says, come to me, you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That's what Jesus said. Cast your cares on God. He cares for you. Romans 5:8, I don't think I've got this in the notes. So Romans 5:8, I love this verse. It says, this is how we know that God loves us, is while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. In the midst of your sin, in the midst of your struggle, it could be that today that your TRV, the victory God is going to give you, is He's going to change your heart and you're going to lay some stuff down today, even though your circumstances aren't going to change. You're still going to have to deal with your bills. You're still going to have to deal with your parents or your kids or your job. And all of these things, the anxieties, the things causing the pressures, the worries of the day may not go away. But what if today you saw the gospel, you saw the power of God in a new way? That is what today is about. And I want to just give us a little experiment. I want you all to raise your hands real quick. Just keep your hands out like this for a little bit. No, all the way up though, straight out. No, straight out like a cross, okay? Or up for, if you don't clothesline your wife, unless it's an accident, and then you're like, okay, she probably did that to you, right? I did this for 5 minutes yesterday just to test this out, okay? And I think I could have gone to about 10, okay? And that's a bold claim. At about, see, John's cheating already, John. He's got a hard shoulder. It's already tired. Yeah. No, okay. Now, y'all can put it down if you want. If somebody really wants to see if you can do it the whole time, that's fine, okay? Jonah, keep going. That's fine. Here's what happened to me. I got to about 5 minutes, though, and I started to feel individual, like little tendons and stuff. And I just began to realize, man, I might, even if I could go 10 minutes, I can't go more. And I just thought I would start off by telling us, you are not designed to carry anything for a long amount of time. Think about that. You can't carry nothing for 10 minutes. And yet, there are some of us here who have figured out ways to carry our burdens and to manage them and our addictions, our sin struggles. Well, we can cope, we can do this and that. And so today, I'm just going to set the table, and we'll get into 43 and 44 next week because they're kind of the same story anyway, so it's going to work out really nicely. But here's what I want you to see. What if today you found your TRV? You actually came to the church for the umpteenth time or for the first time, or you decided, you know what, this is the first time when the pastor says, and I'm going to do this at the end, I want some of y'all to make a decision. I want some of y'all to decide to follow Christ for the first time. And what if for the first time you said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to trust Jesus. It's not about the pastor. It's not about I'm just going to go to Jesus. I got to give some of this up. Or maybe you're a Christian and you've been doing this for years and you just realized in the midst of this message, you know what, I'm holding on to some things. I've got this addiction. I didn't even realize it was a problem, but I could lay that down. Why would I not lay that down? And in fact, I'm going to ask you at the end to either come forward and pray with some of our elders, or I'm going to ask you to open our app, which is the tech way to deal with these things. I didn't prefer you to come forward, to tell you the truth. But also, if you'll notice on our app, there's a I have decided little thing. And even if you just decide today, you know what, I just want to rededicate my life. I just want to get some things, I want to give some things back to Jesus. You can let us know, and I won't even follow up with you, okay? Just let us know. You don't have to get rebaptized. I'm not talking about, hey, I got to redo, it didn't work. But I'm telling you, what if today you walked out of here and your guilt that you've been dealing with, the addiction, the shame, what if all that was taken away and you could have that for free today? Would you take it? So let's look. Here's what I want to do today. I'm just going to set the table on 3 guys. I want us to look at 3 ways that we deal with our burdens, that we carry our burdens. And I'm going to give you a hint. 2 of them are not good, okay? First thing that I've noticed, and I see all of these in me, so this isn't you. If you feel like I'm reading your email and that I know something about you and you're like, oh my God, how does he know? Both of the first 2 examples I would tell you I deal with. The first one is, some of us are carrying our burdens through controlling and manipulating life. We're controlling and manipulating life. There's a guy that we've been talking about named Reuben. He's one of these brothers. There's a man named Israel or Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, and these 12 sons, we've been going through their story. The oldest is named Reuben, and Reuben has this habit. We saw it at the end of last week. What happened last week is there was a famine in the land. You can catch up by going or read the story. Come ask me, whatever, I'll catch you up. They went to Egypt because they were hungry. They ran into their long-lost brother that they didn't know was still alive. He started this little charade plan that's going to work out. There's a reason he's doing it. But he basically took one of the sons, Simeon, and held him there, and he sent the rest of them home. And he said, go home, get your other brother that you didn't bring, and bring him back. They get home and they have to tell their dad, hey, it's the second son we've lost. We lost your favorite son. Now we lost your not favorite son. And but if you want to get this son back, just bring your new favorite son back. And they said they'd just let him go. And Jacob, the father, says, no way. No way, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to lose my next favorite son, my new favorite son. I'm not doing it. And this is Reuben's solution. Reuben sees a problem. And his mind is, you know what, I can fix this. He's a fixer. I can fix this. I can deal with this. And what Reuben said last week is he said this. He said, kill 2 of my sons if I don't bring him back. Put him in my hands and I will bring him back to you. Kill 2 of my sons. What a great guy. Reuben is always figuring out, but he's never really putting his neck on the line, but he's saying, listen, I can fix this for you. This isn't the first time we've seen this. When he was rotting in jail, sitting in jail for a few days with his brothers, first thing he says, look what y'all did. That was last week. Look what y'all did. But if you go back in his story, again, some of us might need another repetition. Remember some of the things that have happened. You see, Jacob, also Israel, had 4 wives. He only wanted 1 wife, and he was manipulated into a second wife, and then it was kind of not going well. And so each of those wives had a maid that became like a secondary wife. And so this is not good. The Bible does not condone this. God does not bless this, but that's the way it is. It is not considered a good thing. This is not an example to follow in your own life. But his favorite son, the one he wanted, or favorite wife, the one he wanted to marry, was named Rachel, and Rachel dies. And as soon as Rachel dies, Reuben, who was not from Rachel, he was from the other wife, Reuben says, this is my time to seize control of the family. He's the oldest, this is my move. And he goes and he sleeps with one of the concubines. He sleeps with one of the secondary wives, and trying to take control from the father of, hey, now there's no one except for my mother. She's the only one, and I'm the firstborn from her. This is now my family. And he tries to make this move because he's thinking about, how can I control? How can I get what's mine? He's kind of like the prodigal son that says, hey, give me that's what he's doing. He's saying, I want my inheritance and I can seize it right now. So he has this, he'll use people, not intentionally, just because he's just thinking about himself. You also saw this, if you may have wondered why this happened. When this whole series started off, Joseph was thrown into a pit, and you remember the first person to say something about this pit. It was Reuben. Reuben says, hey, I got a plan. Hey, in his mind, he's just thinking this. He says, I'm going to have him throw Joseph into the pit because no one likes Joseph. He's the favorite son. And then I'm going to go back, I'm going to get him out, and then I'm going to go take him to Dad, and I'm going to say, hey, Dad, look what all these evil sons did. Look what I did. And then I'm going to bring back his favorite son, and I'm going to be the new hero. Dad doesn't like me, because that whole sleeping with his wife thing. And so now I am going to be back in his graces. I can fix this. See, he's got these burdens that come from the consequences of his life, these burdens that come from decisions he's made in the beginning, and he's always having an angle. And he doesn't see the people that he's hurting. He doesn't see that he's neglecting his children and even putting them in danger because he's just getting this angle. Some of us in here are I can fix it people. We control. And here's what happens with our sin struggles. You've been coming to church a while, maybe. You've been reading the Bible and all that, and you've got these things, and now you have a little pocket, a little compartment. I've got this sin struggle, but God's doing some things through me too. I'm still reading my Bible. They're still worshiping. They're still going and offering sacrifices. They're still doing the things that they would do to worship. But now he's got these compartments. You know what, this is just a struggle. Someday it'll get fixed maybe or whatever. And he puts it in a little compartment. He puts it away. Oh, I could never tell anybody about my struggle because they wouldn't understand. But you don't understand. It would ruin everything. It would ruin all the things I'm trying to do if I were to confess this or if I were to tell somebody about this and have them pray for me or have them help me. I got to hold on to this. I got to hold on to this because life's got these ups and downs, and I got to hold on to this, and I'll just carry it. I'll carry it over. And anytime something happens, bills are coming due and the kids need this or that, or maybe it's just that, my job, all those things, we just put them on the back and we say, you know what, I'll carry it. I'll carry it. I do this all the time. This is where I fall into this all the time. Right now, we're dealing with trying to build a building. Not as easy as you would think. And dealing with a town. We're dealing on, and God's also doing these new things. And we'll talk about next week at the members meeting, 9:30. And it's like all these things. And there's this part of me that just says, okay, I got this. And I'll do this, we can do this, and this. And there's this part of me that just wants to say, I got this. I got this. Y'all go pray. Y'all do whatever you do. I'll fix this. It's a default for me. Sin struggles, hey, they come into my life. You have them too. I'm the pastor. It would do too much harm if I were not to confess. And so there's always that temptation of not going to the people that I have in my life, the elders, and to confess and to deal with it. That's always there for me. fact, I would even argue with you, I have more reason not to confess than you. I have more reason to have to just carry this. It's my struggle. Some of us are in here right now, and you may even be a Christian. You may never have given it your life to Christ, but you're carrying some burdens that you're not meant to carry. Second person I want you to see. I want you to see Jacob, the dad. Jacob is a coper. He used to be a controller. He used to, remember when he wrestled his brother's birthright away and all that? He used to be a controller. I can fix this and stuff. Now life has beat him down a while. Or he's realized he's not the strongest anymore. There's too many things to deal with. And so now he's what I'm going to call a coper. We have a controller, manipulates through controlling, but we have a coper who's still manipulating, who's still trying to carry the burdens, but now we're just kind of playing the victim. Copers we're victims. We're just, woe is me. Look what happens to him. In verse 38, it says, Jacob, their father, says, "You've bereaved me, my children." He's doing this like Scarlett O'Hara. Who is it? I can't remember. "Joseph is no more, Simeon is no more. Now you would take Benjamin. Oh, all this has come against me." He's a victim. 38, he says, "My son shall not go down for you, for his brother is dead and he's the only one left." Imagine saying that to 10, 11 brothers. Hey, I've already lost one son and now I've only got one son left. And they're saying that to all the other brothers that are like, wait, no, there's more of us. But to him, he's just, no. I'll let Simeon, look what happens. Now the famine is severe in the land, and when they had eaten all the grain that they had brought back from Egypt, the father said, "Go and buy some more food." So listen to all the coping that's going on here. It's been a year, by the way. It took them a year to eat all this grain. They've let Simeon just rot there, and he's procrastinating. I'm not to make no decision. That's a coping mechanism when you procrastinate. And I'm good at that one. I got that one too. To not decide is to have others decide. And so that's what's happening. And all of a sudden, he's in a position where Simeon's just rotting in jail, and now they've gotten no food, and so he just plays dumb. So he's procrastinated. I just won't deal with this. Put my head in the sand. Maybe it'll go away. And then now he's playing dumb. Oh, hey, y'all just go back. Forget. And he's not. He's just like, y'all just go back. We'll leave Benjamin here. Y'all just go back. Pretending that it never happened. You know anybody that does that? Life comes against them. I'm good at procrastinating. I'll tell you, my procrastination is next level, and that you won't call me out on procrastinating because I'm procrastinating by doing other things that look important too. So you can't call me out on that procrastination because, it's got to get done too. Somebody's got to do this. Woe is me. He's a victim. I'll tell you, I think there's other things going on in his life. I think he's a deadbeat dad. We've seen this. I think if he were alive today, he'd be the type of dad that maybe he goes to work or whatever, but then he comes home and he's probably not going good with his other 3 wives, obviously. It's probably not going good with his kids, obviously. And so he goes and he shuts the door in his room. And he just needs some me time or whatever, and he lets them deal with themselves. He puts on ESPN maybe. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a time when he would get a drink of wine and celebrate the good times, but now he goes to sleep with a glass of wine. That wouldn't shock me at all if we found that about him. There was a time when it wasn't a big deal, but now he just looks forward. I just got to get to the end of the day, and if I could just get to that bottle of wine, or I could get to that glass of wine, if I could just get there, and all of a sudden that's driving. And he's still in his mind. He's going to church. He loves God, but now all of a sudden he's got something else he runs to, and no one really calls him out because we're still going to church. We're still doing the sacrifices, but I'm running somewhere else because I got to cope. Wouldn't surprise me if he has trouble sleeping. He's got a lot weighing on him. And, sometimes we cope with trauma. That's good. Cope with trauma. You break your arm, take some pain pills. I'll be the first one, okay? You need to sleep because your arm, I did jujitsu, haven't told you that. Anyway, I once had a guy rip my arm out of socket. I took pain pills for like 2 weeks to sleep. But as soon as I could, I decided, you know what? I'm no longer taking these pills because of the pain. Now I'm just taking these pills because they're there, and they do kind of make your feet feel kind of lighter. And I realized, you know what? I'm now taking this, or I had to at least ask myself, am I taking this just to cope with what is life? Am I just running to something to cope with life? I think that's where Joseph is. Where Jacob is. I think he's decided, you know what? I'm a victim. There's nothing. What can I do? I'm trying to love God. I'm trying to do the best I can. But here we are. Now, I can't fix my problems with my wife. I can't fix that. And so it wouldn't surprise me if he was today, he might run to pornography or whatever it is. Just, hey, there's just easier ways to deal with life. And Lord knows I'm not going to take this and give this to somebody else because I've got to carry this. And so we cope, we deal, we control. And here's my gut. All these things that we listed up there that we're dealing with, that we brought in, my gut is they didn't happen on the way to church, but they're not brand new. My gut is, and I'm in this. I don't want you to feel like, man, Joel's giving a test. No, I'm in this. I did this week. This week, I was in this. I realized, you know what, Joel? You're doing this. You didn't get here by this morning. Oh, my addiction came back. No. You've been trying to cope. You've been trying to manage. You've been trying to control. You've been doing, and it's wearing on you. And you might just for the first time even realize, you know what, I have been taking a drink every night. I've been looking forward. In fact, I haven't been in the Word, but I've been drawn to that. Or it could be that, man, the bills are coming due. All these problems I keep solving, I have to solve, and they get heavier. There's another guy in here, Judah. Got good news for you. Judah takes a different angle, but Judah's the worst of them. Judah is the one who kicked the first domino in this whole story. In 37, Reuben, at least his plan was, hey, I'm going to come back and rescue Joseph. If you remember what Judah said, hey, no, let's not leave him in a pit. Why don't we sell him? Why don't we get something out of this? Who cares if he dies? Why don't we get something out of this? Let's make some money off of this. Judah sells his brother. Doesn't care if he lives or dies, sells his brother for money. And then, in chapter 38, one of the most bizarre chapters in the Bible, but it's an important one, there's a flip that switches in Judah. Because he's a controller. He's controlling, and he gets into a situation where he has a daughter-in-law, and he has a son, and that son doesn't. And he's supposed to make some decisions, godly decisions, but he changes his mind. And he says, you know what, I'm just going to make decisions the way I want to make decisions. I'm going to do this my way. And long story short, you might want to revisit it. He ends up sleeping with his daughter-in-law because he didn't follow. He actually sees a prostitute. So this guy, forget a struggle with pornography, he had a struggle with prostitutes. He had this controlling that was anyone in his wake. But when his sin is finally revealed, and he realizes I can't control this anymore, he was in authority. He actually could have said, because I am the leader of this part of the family, I don't care. And he could have put his finger down, but instead he has this moment of confession where he surrenders it. And he says, you know what? We're not going to do anything to her. Even though she sinned, my sin is greater. And you see Judah confess and just say, I can't control any longer. I can't do this any longer. And in fact, Judah, this change of heart is going to affect the entire world history because Jesus is going to come from Judah's line, not Reuben, the firstborn. And I would tell you it probably started with this confession of I can't control anymore. I can't do this anymore. And this evil guy who has sins that are worse than ours, most likely, sold his brother, sleeps with prostitutes, lies about it. He has his moment of confession. And look what happens when he goes to his father. Judah says, we can't. His father says, I'll just go again. He goes, we can't go without Benjamin. We can't go without Benjamin. He says, unless your brother is with you, you will not see my face, meaning do not come here unless you see. And I'm just going to skip down to verse 8. Judah's talking to his father, and this was a man who used to be so manipulative, he would control and do whatever. He would sell anyone out. He would sell his brother out. He didn't care if he lived or died. But now listen. Judah said to Israel, his father, this is him walking in his TRV. He's walking in victory now, even though it doesn't feel like it, because there's still a famine. There's still a favorite in the family. There's still all the same problems. But now you got this guy who's different, and it's going to change the whole course. Next week, it's going to change. Now you got Judah, and Judah says this. He says, send the boy with me. We will arise, and we will go, that we may live and not die, both we and you and our little ones. Notice he's no longer thinking about himself. Now, Judah's just, listen, it's not just about me and you. It's not just about us. Dad, I want you to live. I want our kids to live. This is about this. Listen to what he says. I will be a pledge of his safety. From my hand you shall require him. If I don't bring him back and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. If we had not delayed, we'd have gone there and back twice. Judah says, listen, I'm done trying to control this. My life for his. I will do the right thing. And he does this knowing it may not work out for me. It may not, but I can't carry it anymore. We can't just try to manipulate it. It never works out for us. And this single decision for Judah is going to change everything. In fact, I'll just give you a glimpse of the redemption that starts happening. Jacob says, okay, go, send him. And Jacob begins to plan, okay, we'll do this. Take a lot of silver and and listen to the stuff he names. He says, take some gum, some myrrh, a little balm, all these presents. And the stuff he starts naming was the same stuff that the Ishmaelite traders were carrying when he sold his brother out. And so they were going to return, and Jacob doesn't know this, they're going to return some of the very things that they got when he sold it. God's beginning to slowly redeem simply through this act of confession. Next week we're going to get into it, and you're going to see the gospel as clear as. But I just want to end with this. What would it look like if you decided, I'm not going to cope anymore? I'm not going to run somewhere else. I'm going to admit, I'm going to confess, whatever that looks like, I'm going to lay it down at the feet of Jesus. What would it look like for the first time if you said, you know what, I've been controlling law, and it's just burden. This is me this week. Listen, the summer's always weird for me, and we've got a lot going on in this church. We've got a building we've got a city we're dealing with, we've got all these things, and then on top of that, I haven't been preaching. When I preach, I can just, I preached a sermon, or I prepped a sermon today, it was good, but I've been trying to lead, I've had conversations, this and that, and I get to the end of the day, and I think, you know what, I don't know if I did enough. I don't know, and it just was weighing on me, and I don't even know what was weighing on me. I was just like, I just don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel like I'm doing a good job as a pastor. I just don't feel, I don't even feel there are other pastors that are probably, other churches we should just go to next week. And then as I was prepping this, I just realized, you know what? I'm not walking in victory. And so I laid down, and I don't even know exactly what I laid down. I laid down, God, this feeling of failure, of unworthiness, whatever this is, I lay it down to you. And I thank you that tomorrow is a new day. I thank you that the sun's coming up and you've given me redemption, new mercies every morning. So here's how I want to close this today. I want to just have some honesty. I'm going to invite Joey to come up and play, and we're going to, I really believe that some of you right now are tempted to walk out of here and say, you know what? Yes, I've got some pocket sins. Yes, I'm running into some substances, and I'm running into some different directions. I'm coping with life through procrastination. Maybe it's negative talk. He's doing a lot of that. Maybe it's just negative thoughts of, you know what, they would never want me. I'm not. And we're tempted to walk out with this when Jesus gives us this free offer. Come to me, lay him down. Just as Judah said, I can't deal with it anymore. What would it look like if you said, listen, I don't know if I'm going to sin tomorrow, but today I'm going to confess. I'm going to lay these burdens down, and I'm going to quit carrying them. And every time this week that I feel as if I'm carrying a burden, whether it's a sin that I committed, an addiction I ran back to, whatever it is, instead of running away from God and saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not clean enough to be at church, I'm going to run to Jesus and I'm going to worship. I'm going to say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you for taking this burden off, breaking your body, new covenant of your blood, covering my sins. That's what we offer. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand up. And I just want you to be honest. I'm not making you, I'm not going to, this is just for everyone. I'm going to raise my hand first. How How many of you, if you're honest, would recognize I've been coping with my sin, or I've been controlling my sins and my struggles and my burdens? I want you to raise your hand. How many of you would say, I'm holding on to something I'm not meant to hold on to? He offers us free. You can just lay it down. Trust in Him, and you can lay this down today. I'm doing it. So some of you have never decided to follow Christ. You don't even know what really Christianity is about. That's okay. I will tell you, you start with Jesus. You simply start by saying, I don't want to carry these burdens anymore, and I have a God who's so powerful. He took them to the grave, and then He raised from the dead, and He gave a new life. And all of us that have followed Him are doing that. But some of us, we made that decision, and then we started picking up these sins, and we didn't realize we were coping. So today, maybe you call it rededication, whatever. You don't have to get baptized and all that. Just say, God, I got to come back. So if you're an elder, I want you to come to the front of the room. If you're a wife of an elder, from the front of the room. In fact, I'll have John, you and Miranda come up too. John, come up as well. I want to offer, and these people may need prayer too, but I just want to offer the opportunity for you to come forward and pray with someone. You could pray with somebody next to you, but almost every one of us was raising our hands. And we never come forward, we're never bold enough to say, you know what, I'm going to lay this down. And so I'm going to challenge you. If you raised your hand, give your life to Christ for the first time, or give it back to Him and just realize in repentance, Lord, I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to go pray with someone. I'm going to confess it. We're going to sing this song, and then I'm going to close at the end, but here's an opportunity to quit carrying your burdens. Let me pray for us, and then we're going to see what God does. See how you hear His Spirit right now. Lord, I pray no one walks out of here without laying a burden down. And this is weird for some of us, Lord, so I pray that you'll give us encouragement, holy encouragement. Some of us have been deciding, do I want to join this church? Do I want to follow Jesus? And I don't know. And we may not even have a clear picture. These people seem like they're perfect. They're acting like they're perfect. Lord, I pray that will crumble. And we'll see every one of us is struggling in here. Every one of us is dealing and coping. So Lord, give me the encouragement. Just let me confess it. I confess it today. Let me go pray with somebody. Maybe I need to come pray with them. Lord, I come to you. I lay these things down, believing in the name of Christ that you can do what you said you would do because you did what you did on the cross. So Jesus, we come to you.